There's a very specific kind of genius that only exists in crime. The person who does 95% of a flawless heist and then ruins it with the single dumbest decision a human being has ever made. We're counting down 7 of them, from the guy who never stood a chance, all the way up to the man who almost pulled off the perfect crime and was defeated by a sandwich. These aren't dramatizations. Real people, real cases, real evidence lockers full of "what were you thinking?" ranked by one thing only: how close they got before their own brain betrayed them. So let's ruin some lives that were, frankly, already being ruined quite efficiently by the people living them. Number 7. In 1995, a man named MacArthur Wheeler robbed 2 Pittsburgh banks in broad daylight. No mask, no disguise, just a face, out in the open, smiling at the cameras. Wheeler wasn't confused about the cameras. He knew they were there. He simply believed they couldn't see him because, and this is documented, he'd covered his face in lemon juice. Lemon juice, he reasoned, is used to make invisible ink. Therefore, lemon juice would make his face invisible to film. He was so confident in citrus that he reportedly tested it first with a Polaroid, and the photo came out blank, most likely because he'd pointed the camera at the ceiling. He took that as a scientific breakthrough. Police arrested him that same night after showing the footage on the news. His response was pure heartbreak. "But I wore the juice." Wheeler is in last place because he didn't almost get away with anything. He's here because his case is so perfect that 2 psychologists studied it, and that's where the Dunning-Kruger effect comes from. He is the patron saint of this entire list. Number 6 isn't one man. It's a whole tragic genre of criminal. The people who write their robbery note on the one piece of paper they should never use. Bank robbers, more than once, have handed the teller a hold-up demand written on the back of their own deposit slip, the kind pre-printed with their name and their address. The note says, "Give me the money, no die pack." The teller quietly notes that the money should probably just be mailed to the return address so helpfully provided. Others have done the modern equivalent, confessing in social media posts or reportedly commenting, "That's not me," on their own wanted photo. The lesson these men teach us is eternal. The hardest part of getting away with a crime is surviving your own paperwork. Number 5 takes us to British television, the year 2001, and the game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. A contestant named Charles Ingram, an actual army major, climbed all the way to the final question and walked off having won £1 million. A triumph, a fairy tale. There was just one small issue. Somewhere in the audience sat an accomplice who coughed. Specifically, he coughed right after Ingram read the correct answer out loud. Ingram would float every option, wait for the telltale cough, and then confidently change his mind toward whichever answer his own personal lung was endorsing. It worked. He won. And then, producers listened back to the tape, heard a man cough with the precision of a Swiss watch, and thought, Ingram was convicted of deception and never saw a penny. He almost got away with £1 million, undone by the world's least subtle respiratory system. Number 4 is a man who was genuinely, undeniably brilliant and used that brilliance to make some of the funniest decisions in prison history. Meet Stephen J. Russell. Russell escaped custody 4 separate times, and his methods were art. Once, he noticed the guards all wore green, so he dyed a white uniform green with markers and simply strolled out looking like staff. Another time, he impersonated a judge over the phone to lower his own bail. Another time, he faked a heart attack. The man treated the justice system like a video game with an exploitable menu. His masterpiece, he faked dying of AIDS. He starved himself to look the part, forged medical records, and got himself transferred toward a hospice release. From there, he almost vanished for good. But Russell had a flaw more fatal than any prison wall. He kept escaping on the same date, and he could not resist phoning the people hunting him. In the end, he was too much of a showman to actually disappear. Number 3. Between 2008 and 2010, a teenager named Colton Harris Moore committed over 100 crimes across 9 states, most of them with no shoes on. The press called him the Barefoot Bandit. He stole cars, he stole boats, and then, with no training whatsoever, he stole airplanes, having taught himself to fly by reading flight manuals he found online. Let me be clear about the physics here. This kid read the aviation equivalent of a Wikipedia article, then crash-landed a stolen plane and walked away, repeatedly. He became a folk hero, with a fan club tens of thousands strong. He left chalk outlines of bare feet at his crime scenes, because apparently getting caught wasn't enough of a thrill on its own. He almost stayed free forever by fleeing the entire country in a stolen plane to the Bahamas. He was caught after a boat chase, because he'd shot out his own engine, and because you cannot ultimately outrun the fact that you're a 17-year-old with no passport and no shoes. Number 2. In 1925, a con man named Victor Lustig read a newspaper article about how the Eiffel Tower was rusting and expensive to maintain. Most people would feel mild civic concern. Lustig saw a business opportunity. He forged government stationery, invited scrap metal dealers to a secret meeting, and informed them that France had decided to demolish the Eiffel Tower and sell it for scrap, and that he was the official in charge of the sale. He picked a mark, took an enormous bribe plus payment, and fled to Austria. And here's the part that graduates him from con man to legend. When he read that his humiliated victim was too embarrassed to go to the police, Lustig came back to Paris and reportedly tried to sell the Eiffel Tower a second time. That twice detail leans into legend, so take it with a grain of salt. But the man's confidence was real and fully operational. Lustig almost got away with all of it. What finally sank him wasn't the tower. It was a counterfeiting career so prolific it personally annoyed the US Secret Service, and reportedly, a scorned mistress who gave him up. He conned a nation and was undone by a breakup. And number 1, the 2003 Antwerp diamond heist, one of the largest, most sophisticated robberies in history, and it was ruined by lunch. The target was the Antwerp Diamond Center vault, guarded by a lock with 100 million possible combinations, infrared sensors, a magnetic field detector, a seismic sensor, and a private security force. Experts called it impregnable. The crew, led by a man named Leonardo Notarbartolo, planned for years. They rented an office in the building to study it. They defeated every single layer, sensors, lock, alarms, and walked out with well over $100 million in diamonds, gold, and jewels. It was, up to that exact moment, nearly the perfect crime. And then they drove off and got hungry. On the roadside near the scene, investigators found the crew's discarded trash. Among it, a partially eaten sandwich. That sandwich had DNA on it. That DNA belonged to Notarbartolo. He beat 100 million to 1 lock and was defeated by not finishing his snack in the car like a functioning adult. The diamonds, by the way, were never recovered. So in a sense, he half got away with it. He just also handed the police a signed, chewed confession. If there's a thread stitching all 7 of these together, it's this: the security system is rarely the problem. The problem is always the human being standing in front of it, holding a lemon or a sandwich. Every one of these people did the hard part, the heist, the escape, the con. And then their own brain, sensing a moment of triumph, whispered one catastrophically stupid idea, and they listened. So subscribe, because next time we're ranking the criminals who actually got away with it, the ones still out there, probably watching this, hopefully not eating a sandwich. And if I missed your favorite dumb crime story, drop it in the comments, just not under your real name.